And here we are, spawning in the upper right in the red. He is for Team Liquid. Give it up for MaNa.
His opponents rocking the blue Zerg colors right here. He is the Finnish phenom himself. It is Serral. Going for the spawning pool first as well. Sneaky, sneaky.
Yeah, this is a
probe
bit
right there to scout it, though.
Yeah, this is a bit interesting. Yeah, it's scouted, right? We do have the probe block in immediately, but this is not a 12 pool, right? This is not your aggressive, I'm going to build 8 to 12 Zerglings. I'm going to try to force some damage on the map. I mean, granted, you do build a couple Zerglings and you do move across the map here, but this is much more of a safe... Oh, he gets the natural, too. That's very nice, especially with delayed spawning pool. This is a build that is much more about safety than it is, wow, I want to get aggressive, right? This was, I want to say, was a 15 pool, which, again, it's a little bit later, right? The Protoss is able to respond a little bit easier, but they still have to make a response, right? They can't just sit here and go gate pylon into a Nexus, because then you will be punished.
Right, and to me, it kind of felt like it. I'm not sure what you think about it, but could this have been a response of Serral after getting his natural blocked? That he was like, all right, I'll just go for the spawning pool then instead? I mean, it's not something you see all that often. Most Zergs just, you know, they run off to the third base and they grab that, but he didn't do that. He actually came back for his natural base afterwards as well.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. So the standard Zerg opener for games like this is you say, yeah, I'm just going to accept that I'm not going to have the utmost optimal natural position. I'm going to have to take it at my third. I'm going to have to send my drone at like 120 minerals instead of 175, 180, maybe even 190 if it's a really short main to natural distance. And yeah, you just kind of give that up. You say that is the standard here. So maybe Serral's saying this is new meta, right? I'm just going to go for a pool first anyways. I'm going to get a little bit more pressure on the map. I'm going to get a guaranteed scout because I know MaNa doesn't want to commit too much to hold something that isn't really happening. So yeah, Serral, he's going to get a full scout on here. He does see that there's a Stargate on the way. This is, of course, Stargate into Warp Gate, which does mean that it's not the trap build. We do have the potential for a 350 third base, for a second Stargate, all those things. But the trade-off here, right? If you go Warp Gate into Stargate, which is really something that everyone was doing for a little bit, but now it's pretty much only trap, you get your Warp Gate units a little bit faster. You have the ability to deal with stuff on the ground a little bit easier. But on the flip side, your Oracle is highly unlikely to get damage, especially considering even when you go Warp Gate into Stargate, it does tend to be a Void Ray first. But in this match, again, Stargate unit's a little bit faster.
I mean, he got his Queens out really early too, so it's nice that he already has that defense kind of in a way. I like that he went for a lot of injects. Maybe just, you know, in that sense, he's making up for the fact that he didn't get his second base as quickly as someone else might have. That doesn't go for that spawning pool first, of course.
A nice move here from MaNa. He will be able to get one adept. No, it won't. Never mind. There are a couple queens here, but you know, getting on in, Serral, he noticed the fact that Serral, in all honesty, did not have the amount of Zerglings that you normally would be looking for to hold the 2 adepts. Yeah, you want 4 Zerglings for 1 adept. You want 6 to 8 for 2. And yes, queens can eventually knock those down, but he forced a drone pull, forced a little bit of lost mining time there, and also, well, he got 2 workers. So ideally, you want to get 2 workers per adept, but still, nice damage there from MaNa early on, sitting at the 4-minute mark. And we do not have a third base on the way. So this is not your double Stargate, quick third base, the build that we've been seeing over and over again over the last several months. And to be fair to that build, it's not quite as popular as it once was. We've started to see more branches out of it. But at the end of the day, that's not what we're seeing here. And there we go. 2-base carrier is going to be the name of the game here. I was just about to ask.
It's very unfortunate for MaNa. He made the Void Ray trying to deny any scouting, but look at what's sneaking his way in from that side of the edge right there. It's an Overlord coming into MaNa's base. You can see it twirling its way into the Protoss base right now. Let me take a look at what it's seeing. It's getting really close to that fleet beacon there with the second Stargate. Already seeing one of them now. And there's the other one, so Serral in the know. It's a scary thing here for MaNa, him figuring this out so early on.
You say that, so it's interesting, right? The meta to deal with most double Stargate builds, right? You run across the map, you sit somewhere between 44 and 56 drones, depending on how all in you want to be. You walk your queens across the map with a bunch of roaches, with a bunch of ravagers, and you say, hey, right, I'm just going to kill you. But that build actually is not very good against the two-base carrier style, right? Queens, they're good against Void Rays because Void Rays are bits of a glass cannon scenario, really. But at carriers, they got a lot more beef to them. They can recharge. I mean, the interceptors, maybe they'll die to Queens, but you can keep building them. And this is something actually that we've seen Zest do a lot of, at least in the online cups, EPT. And actually, it was kind of funny. 2 weeks ago, Solar played Zest in both North America and Korea. Zest, well, he took it to game 5 in Korea before Solar did win, and then Solar smashed him in North America. Again, Zest was playing very similar builds. But the thing is, what we learned here from those 8-9 games was that you don't want to go with the Queen Walk, right? The Roaches, Ravager, Queen, it just is not very good against this whatsoever. But instead, what you do here, and Serral, I mean, he knows what to do. He's Serral. We have a Hydra Den on the way, and I would expect to see a Lurker, or excuse me, a Nidus coming in as well. Just get a bunch of Queens, do Nidus, Hydra, Queen. But, well, Serral may have other plans.
Yeah, I'm just trying to learn whatever Serral's doing. I'm like, all right, that's the way forwards. Here we go. This is what you do against this. At least that is still how I see Serral. He's just an absolute beast at figuring stuff out and then just countering it in a way. So far, we're seeing a whole lot of Queens. That is usually quite useful. Hydras as well. I'm not seeing any infestation bits just quite yet, so I'm wondering if that maybe eventually is going to be a part of it. You would assume so, right?
Yeah, I mean, Hydras can be good against small numbers of carriers, especially when there is no Storm, which this build doesn't get, right? You don't have the gas to go two-base carrier and Storm along with everything else. Oh, Serral's going to lose his high-energy Queen. That is a bit unfortunate, but I love what we see here, right? So this is, again, we talk about two-base carrier, right? Something Dust has been doing, but this was popular, what you want to call it, 15 months ago, 18 months ago? When players like me were doing this a lot. And this is how you play it, right? You don't sit in Turtle. If you sit in Turtle, all is lost. The Zerg is just going to grow beyond anything you can ever understand. But what you do is you send those first two carriers out. You're like, look, my first two carriers are actually a really powerful force, especially if there's dead airspace I can sit over. I can snipe Queens. I can snipe Creep Tumors, whatever the case. Granted, I wish MaNa was being a little bit more aggressive here. I mean, I feel like there was a lot more that he could do than what he just did. But, well, Serral now, it's his turn to get aggressive.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. It feels like there's definitely some opportunities there. There's no Vipers, there's no Infestors, anything really to pin you down. You have that recall ability as well, of course, always in case of emergency. But he has got everything still alive now, except for the one Void Ray of his air army, I suppose. But at the front door, at the front step, how many shield batteries are really there? I see only one on the structures tab. It's a bit worrisome.
Yeah, there's only one. It's at the third base. I mean, these are... How many carriers do we have? This is 6 carriers with +1. And the Hydras, they don't have Carapace. So it's not the easiest push here from Serral, but you got to remember, this is 114 army supply, 273. Serral is up massively here. +2 will be denied. Not even a question about that one. And the lack of static defense is, I think, the big issue here. Now, we do have a bunch of Zealots warping on in, and Charge is done. Charge and +1 ground are both done here. So if MaNa can get the flank, right, he's actually going to be able to take this fight, but he's got to get like one more round of Warpins, I think, maybe even 2, before he really gets into a position where he's going to feel comfortable with his hold.
And see, this is just all eggs in one basket here with, well, Queens for this one, I suppose. Nice feedbacks overall. Really helping out. The less energy on those Queens, of course, the better this fight is going to go for MaNa. And here is the commitment. Zealots coming in from behind, probes from the top right side, and the carriers meanwhile with some Archons doing a whole bunch of damage. And it looks like this army of Serral, it is going to go down. More Hydras coming in as reinforcements, but there's still a lot of Zealots here with the Archons and the carriers. This might just be too much.
Yeah, these are just a bunch of dead Hydras here, and now I'm really worried about the counterattack, right? We looked at this Serral. He had like a 50-60 army supply lead. Now he's down 20, right? And this is an army that can continue to move across the map. It is an army that won on equal army supply or on higher army supply. It's actually so much more powerful than the Zerg army. Yes, we do have +1 Carapace on the way. Yes, we have more Hydras on the way, but Hydras are very much not good against charge slots. Archon, sure, because the Hydras can stay out of range, but charge slots, they're just going to make connections. And when that happens, I mean, Hydras just die, especially here, as we have that one, we have a +1 versus 0 armor situation here. Now we do have the Archons. They're going to move on in. Yes, we have some Spores that are trying to do something, but the Spores are really not going to get burrowed in time. And how many Interceptors? We still 17 Interceptors on the field. This is 6 carriers. So yeah, we're not nearly at the max Interceptor count we could be. But Serral, I mean, he is in a tough spot here in this game.
Yeah, he's just trading against those Interceptors. He's not getting on the Archons. He's not getting underneath the carriers. They are recalling right now. Buys Serral a little bit of breathing room. Guess the Interceptor count was just too low, but as soon as that's up again, those carriers most likely free to start roaming the map again. Maybe not as a full group. He could, of course, also try to split them up, or he could just go everything again in one group, and let's see if we can break him this time.
Well, I don't think he needs to move out on the map. It looks more like Serral's interesting in posturing for another attack. But I would love to see Storm, right? I feel like MaNa, maybe once he gets his third base back up, he should be able to afford that. He'd be able to get the gas for that because, yes, this is an army right now that MaNa can kind of fight, right? He does. He no longer has an upgrade, kind of an experiential upgrade lead. It's not exactly, I mean, they both had upgrades, but attack versus no armor doesn't mean the Hydras get shredded. But point being here, right, is he no longer has that upgrade lead, and Storm would be so good against just what is mass Hydra here. But this is a lot of Archons. And at Charge Loss, they do look to make connections here. The Hydra's actually going to get stuck behind the Queens just a little bit. And once again, Serral, he will be forced on back. But I think if he's able to get back maybe to... Does he have any static defense? No, he really doesn't.
I don't think so. No, he's just kind of dead, I suppose. MaNa breaking Serral right there and coming in with quite the force of carriers, and it was enough there. Serral, I wonder, I kind of want to see a similar situation develop in the next game. If they would be ever so kind, these two players. But yeah, I want to see if Serral still is going to try to commit with that type of an attack with just the Queens and the Hydras, or if he's going to try to find some way of bringing it into a different set of army units, right? If he's going to try to involve Investors, Vipers, stuff like that. They're powerful units, and yeah, it would be a waste not to try and get those against carriers, right? There's such a great kind of how would you support unit to help those Hydras actually deal with carriers instead of just endlessly microing backwards, shooting Interceptor, sure, but I mean, you want to get those big carriers eventually, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of interesting. So you talked about, there's no infestation pit here, right? Like no Vipers. But there was a build, right, when we first started to see this double Stargate style. It really was something that Vanya was doing. And what he would do, he would sit on, I want to say it was like 62, 63 workers, sit on 5 gas, get an infestation pit with Hydras, get like 2 or 3 infestors, let them build up enough energy, move across the map with Queens, Hydras, and 2-3 infestors, and then just drop microbial shrouds on top of all of that as he did all in. And then it just meant that pretty much he only had to deal with the ground army. And that worked out really well. Granted, that was a powerful ground army, right? You had a bunch of Charge Lots, a bunch of Archons, but really it was all, the first hold at the very least was as much about the air as it was the ground. So you take out half the strength of that army, and I think that's a game that Serral does win. Granted, I guess he's, that really build that's fallen out of the meta a little bit. Protoss players have learned that, okay, well, we just, we get a little bit more powerful ground army. But we're going to have to see what exactly Serral's adaptation here in game number 2 will be, because MaNa, he's got that 1-0 lead.
It's in a pretty good spot here. There's Red Protoss representing Team Liquid. It is the one and only MaNa.
And his opponent here spawning in the bottom left. In the blue from NC Sports, the Night King. He is Serral. And yeah, it should be pointed out here, Serral dropped his first map of the entire tournament to MaNa in game number 1. And this is this is key for a couple reasons. It means Lambo right now, he's sitting at top of the group. Which, if I had looked at this, if I had looked at how I thought this series was going to go, or this tournament was going to go, I never expected Lambo to be top of his group at any point. Much less, because Serral dropped a map. And B, this means that MaNa's a little bit safer even if he does lose this series. Right, it means that he's only going to drop down -1 in map score instead of a maximum of -2, which means Harston will no longer have the tiebreaker. So MaNa is guaranteed to stay in top 4 after the results of this map. Now, he's going to have to play Lambo after this. He's got a little bit harder run. But step number 1 in the scary path, well, it has been avoided.
Yeah, that's gotta fill his heart with joy right here as he's playing the next map against Serral, taking the first one. That's always, you know, is probably the biggest hurdle overall. And now I'm just trying to see. I saw Serral again going with the same response, right? Sees the probe and then he just throws down that spawning pool. Didn't come back for his natural this time around. Maybe MaNa a bit more on top of that probe micro there. Doesn't want to let Serral take his natural anyway, right?
Yeah, it is, again, it's a 15 pool. We're not going to see, I think we're probably going to see like the 2 Zerglings, there we go, the scouting Zerglings that we saw earlier. But Serral,
Yep.
if this is truly a reaction to the hatch block, as you said, well, it's still going to be hatch block, right? He will still be forced to take that natural at the third base, so it's an even later third, or even later natural, excuse me. You don't get anything out of this. I mean, maybe you get the guaranteed scout, but actually, it looks like Zerglings won't even try for that. And because they have to deal with this probe in the natural here. And well, this is really just coming up roses here for MaNa in game number 2. And remember, he went for a similar build in game number 1, and he did win.
Yeah, this is very remarkably similar opening so far, which is kind of what I was asking for. So that is nice to see. I suppose the one advantage you have here for Serral, you do have those queens a little bit earlier. They do get the inject sooner, so you'll have a couple of larvae coming in that way, right, instead of through the hatchery. But yeah, like the exact maths and stuff, I don't know if this is like better or worse exactly, but then rather than just, you know, taking the third base instead.
Well, from an economic perspective, it is demonstrably worse, right? You do get that 15 pool, you don't get a 16 hatch. It means your drone's going to be a little bit later, means your production is going to be a little bit later. And now we have MaNa. He's going to run in with a couple of adepts, and the Zerglings that we had on the map earlier, they did go down, but look, okay, there are 4 Zerglings on in the main base. I imagined a couple to there are elsewhere here. So the adepts, they will be able to knock down a couple Zerglings, and they do the shade out. But oh, this is going to be a big problem indeed. All 4 Zerglings go down, and we're going to see 4. Are we going to see 4 workers? No, it's only going to be 3, but still, 1 adept gets out, 3 workers go down. We talked about how last game was better for Serral. Well, it absolutely is now. MaNa got 1 extra worker. He lost 1 extra adept. Serral took an even later third base. He got no scouts. Again, this is just coming up roses here for MaNa in game number 2.
Yeah, it's looking very strong, and I'm just waiting to see whether or not Serral wants to try and make that same push across the map here with a lot of Queens and Hydras. If that's the case, it would kind of speak volumes to me about how Serral doesn't really want to go into a late game situation with the Protoss overall.
Well, I think you talk to any Zerg, at least most Zergs, and they're gonna say, yeah, I don't want to play late game. I don't want to play against Golden Armada. That just doesn't feel really good at all. But we talk about whether we're gonna go to the late game or not here. MaNa, it looks like he's going for the same build he did in game number 1, right? It's 430. We have no additional tech. Oh, and Borday Oracle. Wait, where's the Queen? Oh man, Borday's Oracle. They're gonna get so much.
It's hiding
here.
in the hatchery for the time being. There he is.
So
little spa treatment right there in the hatchery and coming back right now.
Man, he didn't get. Man, that would have been even better if he got the Overlord, though. That would have supply blocked Serral. But look at this, MaNa. He's going for a similar 2-base setup, but this time we're not going to see a second Stargate. No carriers. We have a Robo on the way, a Forge on the way. Much more ground-focused style. And this is weird. This is a late. I mean, this is a very late third base. So the rule of thumb, right, is. 4 minutes or up until like 4:15. Yeah, it's a macro Protoss style. 4:30, 4:40. Okay, it's a tempo based, whatever. You got to get some damage done, but not the end of the world. But after 5 minutes, I mean, there are very few styles that actually get something done. Oh, and second Stargate.
Yeah, and he's still making more Void Race as well, right? So it's not the same as we saw before. He is kind of showing those Void Race as well. So Serral. Yeah, being thrown a different curveball this time around, right? Made it look very similar, and then suddenly it is just something else entirely. Now, I'm wondering if we're going to see more harassment out of these Void Race. A bit more nimble, of course. Pretty great still at targeting down those hatcheries or anything like that on the edges of the Serral space here.
Yeah, I mean, MaNa has been playing an absolutely perfect game here in this game number 2. He has lost 1 probe and 1 adept. He has killed 9 workers. He's killed, well, 10 times what he has lost pretty much in the course of this game. And now we have +1 air on the way, double Void Rays, but we also have... Is this just Void Ray Colossus? That's a super anachronistic style.
All right. Well, it's gonna be fun. That's what it is. It's going to be fun to see this. There's a Spire coming up.
Yeah, this is actually...
Yeah, I like the Spire, actually.
Yeah, so this is something that, well, again, the Spire's a little bit later than the style I'm thinking of, but this is something we've seen Raynor and Solar really be the two progenitors of that one start experimenting with, where if you know it's a Stargate build, which this one is, you go, oh, a Void Ray will go down there, gotta be careful there, MaNa. Where you go a Spire pretty much as quickly as possible, right as your Larida's finished, you get like 15 mutas. And then what you do there is you delay the transition into late game Skytoss. You delay the transition into carriers and other nice things by forcing Phoenix, by forcing your opponent to play Phoenix, Void Ray, which is not nearly as powerful as just mass carriers, but you need them, right, to deal with the mutas. And we're gonna have to see whether Serral will be successful in that, as we just have the Voiders here sharking around, knocking down as much creep as possible. And this is not going to be Void Ray Colossus. I mean, I guess it's a similar idea. It's a Void Ray Disruptor. But, I guess this is just, well, this means that Lurkers are not going to be very good, but that's not what Serral's going for.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I wonder if he's just looking to, keep those upgrades going, or what? Most likely we'll just be entering some extra carriers here, right? It's always great to not just have the singular Void Ray units, but he's still producing Void Rays actually. So yeah, it will be for the Void Ray speed upgrade.
Oh man, this is so cool. This is we saw Australia doing something like this in the global finals. Oh man, he played as Zerg. I forget who he was playing. Maybe it was Rogue. No, I think it was Dark. On Golden Wall, he played a style like this, and it actually worked out for him. It kind of turned into a base trade, but it was a very cool style. I'm a bit worried though, because yes, we do have +1 air done. It means these Void Rays are going to be able to fight a little bit better. But we have 13 mutas on the map, and Void Rays, even with Flux Veins, they're not quite as fast. And there we go. Okay, so it appears that MaNa has scouted the fact that there are mutas on the map. Not exactly sure what he saw, but he does know mutas are on the map. No, so we do have Phoenix on the way here. There's only one for the moment, because MaNa is actually really terribly supply blocked.
Yeah, and that could come to hurt right now with these Mutalisk arriving on top of that shield battery, looking to do some harm onto the probes. Void Rays, as you mentioned, not that quick, so... Well, they're pretty quick, just not as quick as the Mutalisk, right?
Yeah, not as quick, and they don't do damage nearly as fast as Phoenix's or Phoenix's do. And look at this, though. Serral, he's going to stay on the Mutatech. What I've seen a lot of, right, is you go 13, 15 mutas, and you understand that that's going to force out Phoenix. So you go Corruptor, and then you play, Muta Corruptor versus Void Ray Phoenix, which was, shout out to Heart of the Swarm, right? But not in this game, as we do have 3 Phoenix out at a time. They do already have +1, +2 is on the way, and we're going to have Annie and Pulse Crystals rather soon. So these mutas have a very, very short lease on life.
Well, there are still a lot of Void Rays around as well, right? We still have 10 Void Rays versus the 6 Phoenix. Yeah, you still have to have a response to the Phoenix, but, I mean, those Void Rays, they deal with Corruptors very quickly too. So maybe Serral just kind of trying to ensure that he has a big enough Mutaball to actually kill the Void Rays as well. I'm not sure. Or he's unaware that the Phoenix are coming in. I mean, you would expect it, right? Like, there's no way he's not going to make Phoenix when he has like 3 Stargates producing Void Rays.
I mean, that's part of the goal, right? You force Phoenix that are not carriers. Now we have now Corruptors on the way, but I mean,
yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay, he will get that 4th phase. That's going to be very nice indeed. But all these mutas are dead, or most of them are. At the very least, it's Annie and Pulse Crystals, it's +1 Phoenixes. I mean, the mutas just cannot fight that. So we do have Corruptors on the way, a 2nd Spire on the way. But carriers are now on the way here, right? This is MaNa, even if he did lose that 4th base, he still has enough, right? He has, what does he have? He has 8 Void Rays, 9 Phoenix. He has enough to deal with this Muta Corruptor flock, at least for the time being. So he feels comfortable moving on into that late game. But Serral, he's progressing his tech too, right? We have Ultra Cavern on the way. We have Vipers on the way, which actually against Phoenix and Void Rays in particular are very good. They all clump up, which means Parasitic Bombs, right? They will do work if MaNa is not quick on the split.
Yeah, spreading the pestilence with those Vipers coming in. A couple of Disruptors here being caught out by a bunch of Zerglings as the Mutalisk arrive in the natural base. Phoenix on a desperate pursuit, but MaNa is losing units quite rapidly and only on 53 workers right now versus almost 90 of Serral. Serral's losing a big portion of his army, but I mean, he is in a position where he can just remix fairly comfortably here.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was about to say, yeah, you know, he's lost a lot more, but or he lost a lot there, but he still traded a lot better over the course of this game, and I'm finding that's not really true. The 1,000 resources loss differential that we saw after at 5 minutes is the same resources loss differential we have here at 12 minutes, which means that Serral has been trading evenly, maybe even a little bit better over the last several minutes, as Serral has had that massive,
That's very impressive.
econ advantage.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I was like seeing those Mutalisks just fighting Phoenix, right? You just expect the opposite of that Venus lost time in a sense. But yeah, it shows that Serral on top of that micro, not losing too much, and consistently just getting that to work. A couple of Banelings attempted to roll by, but Status Trap does stop that party from happening for the Banelings.
Yep, really nice stasis trap there, and that will allow MaNa to know what's happening, but we don't see a lot of reaction there. We see one stalker in the wall, but I mean, there are a lot of Banelings here. They can break right on through that, but now we have Ultras coming on in. MaNa here, he's sitting on about 100 army supply, which makes him feel good enough, but it's still, right, he's only on 4 bases. He only has +2. He's got +3 air attack on the way. He's got Immortals on the way. Now the Banelings, Zerglings, they're going to look to run on in here, and there's just not a lot. Yes, the Phoenix will lift up as many Banelings as they can. It is only +1. It's not +2. So, you know what? Actually, he's not going to take a lot of damage here. I mean, he's going to take a little, but not as much as it could be. There we go. Everything's going to go on down on this run by MaNa. Is going to stabilize, even as he does lose a couple Void Rays.
Oh, turning around a bit too much, perhaps. Archons and Void Rays there. Almost getting too much firepower on that Corruptible. I mean, Serral, he is still on a very good economy. He's remaxing very quickly. But MaNa, he has been stably improving this army. And this army supply now at 110. It could come in here and crush the dreams of Serral if he does not have the appropriate units ready. The transfuse, extremely good though so far. Look at those transfusions. That is just a perma-transfuse going down on some of those Corruptors. Very impressive.
Oh, yeah, Kozan,
Carriers have to retreat.
Oh, man, nothing's dying. Yeah, that's just going to be a GG Serral. He has too much. MaNa took too much damage, and game number 2 will go the way of the Finnish Mastermind.
Yep. People say shield batteries are very strong, but I mean, that transfuse, that's been around for a long time. Pretty strong as well. Hardly any Corruptors that died in that fight.
Yeah, unfortunately, we saw a lot of those Void Rays targeting down Queens instead of the actual, armored Corruptors. And yes, MaNa has a scary army, but when there are 8, 10 Queens sitting beneath that had 2, 3 transfuses each, yeah, you got an army to fight one of those armies of Serral, but the Queens give you effectively 1 point, give you such a force multiplier. It's like, can you fight 2 armies of Serral that are just existing right there? Can you fight 3 with the Remax? Yep. Probably not, right? +3 was on the way. MaNa did not have to move out there. I know he thought he saw an opening, but unfortunately, just not enough. I would have loved to see maybe some High Templars to feed back the Queens. Maybe to knock down that energy to allow him to take the fight. But at the end of the day, there were too many carriers, maybe not enough Void Rays, or the Archons did not get under the Corruptors as they needed to be. And Serral, he just took the win. And now, well, Serral, he lost a map for the first time in this series, but he's not, or first time in this tournament, he's not lost his first series yet.
It's true. It could still happen though. MaNa making it tight in this last one right here. Hopefully as well. I mean, the first one and the second one, they were pretty close. A couple of times I did get worried there for Serral, right? Especially that opening in the second game, as you were mentioning. It seemed like things were going even better for MaNa in the initial one. So let's see where it ends up this time.
Sounds like a good idea. And here we are, spawning at the bottom left. In the blue, he is, for NC Sports, Serral.
And his opponent, he's rocking the red color, the Protoss player, fighting for Team Liquid. It is MaNa.
And Kozan, don't remind me rocking the red. My hockey team, they got knocked out in round 1 of the playoffs. And I know.
Wait, this is the hockey team?
You rock the red. In the United States, the Washington Capitals, they're one of their slogans is rock the red. Anyways, I know this is Europe. This is European StarCraft, so we're not here talking about North American sports. But
I've been saying this a lot. I hope I'm not causing any copyright infringement somewhere on some channels somewhere.
Nah, I think you're probably fine. I don't
Well,
think,
probably
you know.
fine. It's just a color and a word, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's all.
And even then, trademarks, things like that, they are often application specific. So no one's going to confuse, you know, the Washington Capitals or, I don't know, FC Juventus for, none of them is going to confuse them for a StarCraft tournament. I think you're probably fine.
I would hope not. My grandmother might, but I think that's the only one.
Yeah, you get them like, oh, what's that sport you play? I'm like, yeah, it's not really a sport. It's a lot of fun. It's super competitive. It's not really a sport. But yeah, you can watch me,
You
right?
do it with a stick on the computer, right? That's how it works, with the puck and then the mouse.
Oh, yeah.
Very confused.
And especially then we get into games that are games of sports, like, you know, FIFA or something, where, oh, why are you playing the sports on the computer? Why aren't you playing it to real life? Well, I'm like, it's raining outside. It's nighttime. I can't really. There's no one to play with. It's COVID, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, why aren't you doing it anyways? Well, rain.
You're gonna go outside now. You're gonna feel great about it.
No,
Man, yeah.
yeah, my parents didn't
Oh, well.
understand it at all until I took my dad to Red Bull Battlegrounds DC. The what was that? 2015, the Circuit Championships, and he's like,
Yep.
I get it now. Day 9's a nice dude. You like this because of Day 9? I'm like, no, I like it because of the game, but Day 9's also cool.
It's partly why. It's partly why. I mean, we've been absolutely blessed with just overall community figures in the StarCraft 2 scene. It's just so many great figures overall.
Yeah, the community is awesome, especially when you start, you know, doing stuff like this, when you start casting or, you know, playing on a team league or just anything that really gets you more enmeshed in the community. Again, you're right. We are absolutely blessed here. There's some really awesome people in the scene. As that probe, we should probably talk about this game for a little bit. The probe will survive. Yep. But you know what? Not only is the scene fantastic, if you're, you know, you're doing something a little bit more, just in general, shout out to you, all of you watching. I love you all. But,
He does. Yeah, I love you too, of course, as well.
No, I don't love you, Kosan. You're the one person I dislike.
Yeah, I knew this was coming. All right, well, on that note, there's an Oracle coming up here for MaNa, and let's see Serral's defenses so far. It's 3 queens, 2 more on the way. No Spore Crawlers just quite yet. Oh, MaNa's bulking up. Wants to hit the home of Serral with 2 Oracles instead of just 1.
Yep, we have Oracles here on the map, but I think, Kozan, you're more of a Nostradamus.
I'm Nostradamus. What happens?
He's going to move across the map with 2 Oracles. You just said that. So, I'm giving you credit here for knowing how the game's going to work, Kozan. Come on, work with me here.
I've played this sometimes. I mean, 2 Oracles, it's like one-shotting drones to that point, right? It's not a necessity getting more than that, unless if you're looking to take out queens and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if you want to go for something like that when you're playing against Serral.
Yeah, of course, shout out to the SOS build that was many years past at this point, where he just got like 8 Oracles and realized, Oracles do ludicrous DPS. I'm just gonna fly over and kill everything. The 2 Oracles, they will find their way out into the natural, but there are 2 queens here and a Spore. They can't last too long, so early game at the very least, this map is by far the worst one that MaNa has experienced. Granted, in the game he got less done was the game he won, and the game he got more done was the game he lost. But now we do have a 3rd base on the way, but this is not going to get up. We have a bunch of Zerglings already here.
Hello. Serral says no, sir. He does not want this to happen in this game. And so it shall be.
And so it shall be. That's actually a lot of Zerglings. You generally, at least the Koreans, they'll get like 12 to try to delay a 3rd base, something like that. But this was, I think, something like 25. And yeah, Oracles are crazy. Yeah, that's a lot.
Granted, he needs to cancel it again, I feel like, to make this worth. He has the Zerglings for it, to be fair. Gotta watch out for those Oracles, though.
Yeah, so it looks like he will not attempt that. But again, this is a 530 3rd base. Serral, he has 3 bases. He does have a lair on the way. He's got Evo Chamber on the way. So this will once again not be a queen walk. And
I'm sorry, I got really excited about something MaNa did right there. I don't know if you picked up, but you probably did. But yeah, MaNa just activating one of those Oracles, right? Specifically, just grabbing one, activating that in order to ensure that he doesn't run out of energy, he doesn't get baited too much, and then you know, suddenly still Zerglings run back in. I thought that was really cool to see.
Oh yeah, very true. And you give me too much credit, Kozan. I was just, you know, doing what any StarCraft fan does.
Just go along with it. You saw. We all know you saw.
Yeah.
You just knew that I was going to point it out as well. You figured this stuff out ages ago.
Exactly. I just learned to trust my co-caster. If he says something, I'm like,
That's
yeah,
right.
absolutely. So tell me the secrets of the world.
Yeah. Nice. All right.
But
what's happening with those Void Rays?
they're
just some creep snipes.
Yeah, and that's actually something that's really nice. We started to see this a little bit more now. We saw it. I still want to see Oracles start to do it, but I guess Revelations are more useful on like tracking an army. But one of the big complaints Protoss have had for quite a while, right, is like, I can't stop Zerg creep, right? Any sort of move out gets punished. But these Void Ray Observer hit squads actually do a fairly good job of it, as long as the queens don't react. That is a lot of queens, though, and I do like this from Serral. Once again, he's going for that Mutacorruptor style that does so much against this specific Stargate opener. But MaNa, he's not going straight into Skybia. I mean, he has Void Rays, of course. He does have +1 on the way, but he's not going straight into that carrier format. No, he's got Disruptors on the way. He's got Blink on the way. He's got a big ground army that he's going to be able to make rather soon.
I feel like MaNa, he had this entire series planned out, right? He knew what he was going to do game 1, game 2, and game 3. And it's looking so nice, right? I mean, game 1, the opening overall was very similar to game number 2, just this tiny little twist. Didn't work out there. And now game number 3, he is kind of showing, once again, the similar stuff as he was showing Serral in game number 2. But then with that great gateway follow-up, as you mentioned, I'm wondering what is going to happen here. Those Roses and Zerglings not going to get anywhere. But there is 15 Mutalisks on the way. How do you think that is going to kind of go up against these kind of gateway forces?
Well, Blink is on the way, and that's going to be something, right? That is going to be something that MaNa is going to have in his wheelhouse here, but it's not done yet. And it's just Void Rays. Void Rays, not all that great against Mutas. Yes, we do have some cannons. Yes, we do have some static defense in the mineral lines, but it's not paired cannon shield battery. And when you want that, that's what you really want. It keeps the cannon alive. So we do have the Mutas. Where are they on the map on the right-hand side? They're going to look to move across the map here, and, well, we're going to have to see how exactly MaNa does decide to react, and that will inform Serral's next step. But for the moment, he's just going to look to dive on in here, get as much damage as possible. As the Roaches and the Zerglings, they will be able to deny that fourth base. And now the Mutas, they're here. They are strong. They're powerful. They're going to fly into the main base.
Yeah, taking this fight here, the evil alien seagulls. Are they actually going to commit, though? It looks like he's thinking about it, but not entirely sure when the rest of that army is going to come in. So wanted to keep tabs on that and just be in a safe place. Blink about to finish up, so it's good to kind of stick around that ledge, right?
Yeah, make sure you can get out when you need to. But look at this. Look at the production tab here a little bit, Kozan. We have Colossus on the way. Oh, nice recall there, making sure the Disruptors do stay alive. But now this means this is a wholly undefended mineral line, but Stalkers are there in time, so really not too much damage is going to get done. And but we have Colossus on the way, along with the third Stargate. We have we have a fleet beacon as well, but this, I mean, this makes sense, right? We saw Serral in the last game. He went for +1 melee, went for +2 melee, Ling Bane, all that fun stuff. Was able to deny enough bases, and then, well, he had enough, you know, Mutas in the sky that he was totally fine. But this is going to be Phoenix Colossus, and A, that's not a style we see in this matchup all that much. But B, that's going to be so good against just masses of Ling Bane, because, well, if you have enough force fields, the Colossus wipe down all the Zerglings, and it's totally fine. We're going to have to see just how effective that will be, though, as the Mutas now. Once again, they're going to fly on into the main base. This time, yeah, there's actually nothing here, but they're not going to target down workers. It's only the pylons. Knock down as much production as possible, which will allow Serral, of course, to move in on the left-hand side as well. Knock down the fourth base here and just drag MaNa all over the map.
Yeah, that was a nice move there. MaNa definitely overcommitting, as you said, to that right side. And it's curious. Serral here on max supply. It got quite obvious when we saw the amount of banelings he was making here. Let's see if this is gonna... Well, it's gonna do something. Or actually, it didn't do really anything. It just kind of died.
Yeah,
about 13 banelings worth of somewhat. Some around that belt. Probably more, right? Because do they actually, if they explode themselves, they don't show on the units lost tab, right?
I don't know whether that has been changed or not. I know it was true at one point, and
yeah.
I want to say nice username changed that, so only the ones that were killed show up, but still, 23 banelings at a minimum were killed there, and maybe even more.
Yep.
Banelings are not great against Colossus. I mean, yeah, you get enough of them, whatever, but Colossus are big, walkie boys. They have a big box, or they have a big hitbox, and that makes it very difficult to really get cost-effective trades. But Serral says, well, you know what? If some Banelings are good, more must be better. 20 more Banelings on the way. That's a lot of Banelings.
It's just like, all right, well, maybe Banelings don't work all that great against Colossi and sometimes Disruptors and stuff like that. But what about 6 bases worth of Banelings just rolling into a 3-base Protoss over and over again? Well, that might do the trick. Actually, not gonna try to get that Nexus for the time being. That is a scary thing. Oh, Banelings on the left side getting caught out. Mutalisk, is that a Mutalisk in the main base? I would assume so. He's finding a lot of probes. But he's got to be careful. His army of MaNa now out for blood.
Yeah, MaNa now taking the economic damage that Serral was looking for, but MaNa really has not taken that much over the course of this game, which means, yes, eventually MaNa's not going to have a lot. Now Disruptor shots are going to go off. Banelings are going to hit literally everything, but hey, Banelings were nerfed recently. Stalkers are a lot better against them. MaNa still has a very powerful army, and a lot of the bulk here of this army is not nearly what it once was. We're going to have the Colossus. They're still standing strong. More Stalkers are warping on in. MaNa, does he have enough here?
I can't believe Serral tried to go for that fight already. I thought he would try to move back, just sacrifice a base or two. He has Ultralisk on the way, all those Zerglings as well. But is it gonna be able to hold here? It looks like he's taken control of the ground. Now just needs to take control of the air. Mutalisk coming back. He killed 50 probes at home of